Hey, it's Mike, and today we're going to look at the footstep system of Game Creator 2. Game Creator 2 comes with a footstep system so that you can have different sounds depending on what surface your character is walking on. So if we look at the settings of the core module, you will see some audio mixer groups, and just to point out, the footstep sounds come through the sound effects mixer. So if you're using audio mixers, it'll go through your sound effects mixer, so you can set it there. So just to get started, I'm going to create a terrain, and we'll create our player, and then we will set up a footstep system. And so see the terrain is here. Okay. It's a default terrain. And then we're going to create we will create the player. Create our player. We're going to put the player maybe halfway into the terrain, so we're in the middle of the terrain. If we're in Unity 6, the default is now URP, but the default materials in Game Creator 2 have not changed, so we need to use the render pipeline converter and upgrade the materials to get those to work. And now that's working. So if we look at our player, and okay, I'm going to create a camera shot first for the player. I'm going to use a follow target. So if we look at the player, we have a footsteps item right here, and this left foot and right foot tells the footstep system what bone it is, and I think it checks to see when your feet are touching anything. It knows what it collides with, but we don't touch those. You can add feet, so if you have a quadruped, I think you can get this to work with that as well, if you can add more than 3 feet. And by default, we have a footsteps material asset, so the default one is included. It doesn't have anything in it. It's just a default footstep default sound. So if we listen to that, it is just doesn't sound like much. And so that's that. And we want to get back to that. So yeah, so what we want to do is create a custom one and set it up with different materials. So I'm just going to duplicate this one with Control D, and I'm going to move it out of the Game Creator 2 folder. I'm just going to call it my footsteps player 1, and we're going to assign that to the player. So now we have our custom asset, so that's all we have to do in there. So then in this one, so first of all, if you don't have the examples installed, go ahead and install those, because it comes with a bunch of helpful things that we can use with footsteps system. So I'm just going to install the examples through here. So make sure those are installed. So we'll install those. And now that those are installed, we can take a look at in the examples. So those are in here. So if we look here, the examples, let's see, under characters, there's a footsteps thing. I'm not going to open that, but in here we have an example footstep asset. So they shows you how they set up one for water, dirt, moss, and wood. I'm just going to set mine up separately. And but the other thing is they have this FX Footstep, which is a particle system that gets played. Oh, and again, if you're in URP, we also need to do the render pipeline converter again on the examples after the examples have been imported. Okay, that's done. So that's working now. So this FX Footstep, it puts a footprint, and it also puts like a little puff of smoke as well. This Footsteps example also comes with some terrain layers and a wood material and some default sounds that you can use and textures. These are just test textures because they have, you know, words written on them, but we can use them to test our terrain. So I'm just gonna paint up this terrain with some of those layers. So I'm just gonna add the layers. We're gonna add the dirt layer as the default layer. So that'll be, everything is gonna be dirt. And then we want to add a new layer. We can add the moss layer, and we'll add the water as well. So now we can paint in the moss and the water. So let's just paint some moss and paint in some water over here so we can see you know, when it changes. So we'll do that, and then there's a wood. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to create just a cube, and we're going to put that down over here, make it 0.1, and then like 5 by 5 maybe, and we're going to put it over here. So this one we're going to leave alone. We're going to see what happens when there is no texture on an object and see if you get any footstep. And then I will make another one which is going to have the wood material on it. So drag that there. And see, these are only for testing. It says wood right on it, so it doesn't look like wood. It's just a test texture. So now let's go back and look at my footstep asset. So what we want here is the default is footstep default. So that's all we're going to get if we hit play right now. FX Footstep, we'll add it right here. And use pooling allows you to use an object pool for these particles. It's probably a good idea. And then the duration is how long the footstep is going to be visible. So if I hit play now, we should hear the footstep default sound. And we'll get once the shader compiles. And the volume is kind of low, so I'm going to put this to 1. And then we'll run again. So we can hear the default sound no matter where we go, except on here. We're not getting any sound at all, and that is because this has no material assigned to it. It's got just the default material, so it does not have like a main texture. There's no texture on it, so I believe Game Creator 2 looks for a texture on the materials. This is just using the lit shader. So in order for this to work with footsteps, we need to like create a new material for it. So let's do a floor material, and it has to have some type of base map on it, I think. Let's just see if it does. If it works with this, that would be something to try, but I think it has to have a base map. So let's see. No, it does. It has to have a base map assigned to it, so we need to put something on this, even if it's just the checkerboard texture. I think we can just do that. Default checker. So let's see, and we'll just put this back to white. We can see the checker texture is we'll tile it by 10 by 10, or yeah, let's make it darker, and we can see it a little bit better. Okay, so let's see if this works with the footsteps. Now we're getting footsteps on this one because it's now detecting that there's a texture associated with this material. So, now let's just set up this thing with all the other materials. So we need one for moss, wood, dirt, water, and then whatever that one is. But so we'll do the moss, and you have to tell it what the texture is that it's going to look for. So we're looking for the moss texture, and then we'll put that prefab back in. Footstep, or maybe you don't want a footstep on in your moss because he's in grass. There's not going to be any visible footsteps. So let's do that. And then under variations, we put our audio clips. So we're going to use the sounds that are in the examples. So we're going to use step moss for that one. So that's moss. And then we want the dirt. And we're going to use step dirt for that one. Put that at 1. We're going to use that prefab. And the texture is footsteps dirt. Okay, now water. We're going to use the footsteps water and the particle. No, we're not going to do a particle. Let's go back and just put it to 1. And the audio clip is step water, and we're going to do wood. That's going to be step wood. Put it to 1. Texture, footsteps wood. And now, and there's one more that they give you, which is concrete. Now this one, I'm going to be looking for the checker texture. The default checker texture, because that's this guy. So we're going to call that concrete, and then we'll use the step concrete for it. Let's put that to 1, and then we want the footstep particle. And that's that. So we have 5 now. So that should actually do it. That should fix everything. We should now have all our different footstep sounds. So let's see. So dirt, moss, and then see there's no like footprint. And water. Sounds good. And then wood. A little bit of water in there, and then this is the concrete one. So this is all well and good. It works perfectly. There is one problem though. There is a bug with this system, and that occurs when you are using the shooter module. So now let's cover how that problem occurs and what are our options to fix that. So if I install the shooter module, then we'll see what the issue is. So let's just install that. Okay, so shooter is installed. So what I want to do is I'm going to get the player to equip a weapon on start. On start, we're just going to attach a prop, and the prop is going to be okay, so we need the samples for this as well. So you want the examples because you get the sample weapons with it, and it comes with handles and weapons and all these different things for the shooter package, so it's worth installing those. So what we want is the prop prefab. Okay, let's look at the pistol weapon, and we're going to attach it to a handle, and that would be in the handles. So the pistol weapon handle, and then we want to equip shooter weapon, and then that's under here, pistol weapon. So that's all you need to do, and then the player will equip it. I think we have to run this again though, because the materials needs to be converted. Okay, so let's hit run. So the player is now equipped the pistol. Okay, so the problem is now there's no more footstep sounds. They're gone. So this is the problem with the shooter package. It introduced this bug where the footstep system doesn't work as long as you have a weapon equipped. If you don't have it equipped, if I turn off the trigger, then it'll still work. So it's something to do with when it attaches the weapon. It still works. But as soon as you attach the weapon, it doesn't work anymore. So that's an issue. It needs to get fixed. But from what I've heard, they're going to do the traversal module first before they do any more fixes to the shooter package. So it might take a while for this to be fixed. So what are the options to fix this? Well, there's two options. You either don't use the shooter package at all, which, you know, it does a lot for you. It's a good module. Or the other option is find a different footstep system to use other than Game Creator 2's native system until it gets fixed. So there's a few options for that. One option is the Invector Footstep System. So you might have the Invector third-person controller. It also comes with this Invector Footstep System. I have a standalone one in the asset store, so there is that, and it does a similar type of footstep system where it detects what terrain that you're walking over, and plays a sound based on that. So we can look at that. It's fairly easy to implement, but there is also a bug with that as well, but it's a bug that can be easily fixed. So if I turn off, so now I'm going to turn off the So just turn this on. If you delete this, it turns off the Game Creator 2 Footsteps system. And now if we want to use the Invector Footstep System, all we have to do is come down to the mannequin, wherever the animator is, and then you can put a V, or actually you go to Invector Footstep System, add footstep component. So then you do it there, and then we'll turn on debug texture name for now, but it also has added triggers to the model, and it detects where it needs to do that. So it adds these two triggers to your feet, and so it can detect what you're walking on. And so what all we do is put in the surfaces. So if we want an audio surface, so there's some examples. If I open up the example, import the examples. So by default, they give you a default surface, a grass, gravel, and a metal surface. But if we look at the mannequin, we can just use this default surface here. And it does support quadrupeds and non-biped characters as well, so it could be pretty good. And then custom surfaces, let's do the grass surface. Add that. And we'll also add the gravel. Oops. The gravel surface. And then we're going to add a custom one. So let's do a custom audio surface. So we want like a water surface. So then we can add that to our number of surfaces. Water surface. So what the water surface. So each of these surfaces, you tell it which audio source and audio mixer you want to use. So, and that audio source is in the examples here, so you can use this prefab. And it also creates an audio mixer group. So for each one of the materials, it creates one. So if we want to have one for water, there's a footstep mixer. We just add a group under there and call it water. So each materials has its own mixer, which is pretty good. And so you can control the sounds depending on what surface it is. And let's see what else we have here. Okay. So the water surface. Okay, so we can give it the mixer group, and we don't need the particle. So it also has the particles that it can emit when you step on something. We want the audio clips to use. So we're going to use, there's a water clip I have here. The step water. Yeah, we use the step water. And it also needs to know what textures. So if we're going to go over that other water texture that we set up, that's called Footsteps Water, I think. You just type it in, the name of the texture that you want it to detect. Footsteps water, that's what we want, yeah. Water surface. Okay, so footsteps water. So this is supposed to work, just like that. Okay, so let's see if it does work. Okay, we have the debug turned on as well. So it's telling us we're on dirt right now. That's the texture we're on right now is dirt. So if we move here, it still says we're on dirt. Okay, and we're hearing the dirt sound. So there's no water, nothing. So it doesn't work. It sort of works, but it doesn't work. It doesn't, when there's a terrain, it's not detecting the other materials. And the reason for this is there's a issue with the code in their script. So if we go to the actual source code of this footstep system under the V footstep script. So if we open that up, this is the script that determines what it's supposed to play. So if we go down to the get texture mix, this is where it reads the terrain and tries to find out all the textures you're walking on top of. This doesn't work. So if we see here, this only gets called if you've collided with a texture, or this only gets called if you collide with a terrain object, if your character's walking on a terrain object. So, but it has another check here to see if the terrain collider is in the bounds of the player's position. So it's saying, is the player within the bounds of the terrain collider? And if it's not, then it returns a 0 from this function. But this is not necessary as far as I can tell. We can safely comment that out, because there's no reason to do this check, because this function only runs when we have collided with a terrain. So this is unnecessary. We don't need to check it again. And for some reason, this terrain collider bounds.contains always returns 0. It's not returning anything. It's always it's never going to work. So if we comment that out and then let the project recompile itself, and now we'll see if it works. Okay. And now it seems like it does. Already it's detected dirt, moss, and water on this one spot, which is good. So we want it to. So we have the moss. We're on moss. And we have water. And we're on wood now. And so that's good. So the other thing we can take a look at here is the other default ones that they come with. So the grass surface, for instance, it only has this footstep grass. So if we want it to do our moss, then we want it to be footstep moss, I think it is. Footsteps moss, right? So that's one thing you can do to fix it. What else do we have here? Gravel surface. So yeah, you can add all the textures you need to detect whatever surfaces. So let's say if I wanted my dirt to be on this one. Oops. Footsteps dirt, and then all we have to do is run it, and we'll be good. So now we're getting the gravel sound effect. And this is the grass sound effect. And then, well, we don't have the wood set up anyway, but you can set it up pretty easily the same way. So yeah, so this will work with both terrain and regular textures. So as long as it has a texture name, you just put the texture name. All right, so that's Invector Footstep System. The other option is, if you have bought some of the sound bundles from Ovani Sound, they also have a footsteps system that is fairly easy to use as well. So the Ovani Sound Footstep System is also an option to use. So let's take a look at that next. So with Ovani Sound, they give you the asset as a package. So we want to import as a custom package. So we just import their package. So we've imported that, and now let's inactivate the Invector, and then we'll bring in Ovani Sound. That comes in the Auto Footsteps folder. So what we want to do is on the player, we would just create a empty child for the footsteps, and all we do is add a Auto Footsteps to it. This one we need to put the walk speed is 2, the run speed is 4, and I think the crouch speed is 2 as well, to match Game Creator 2's defaults. And the foot profile, it comes with 2. You can do barefoot or shoe, so let's do shoe foot profile. And now each foot profile gives you a specification of all the different materials that it recognizes. So for grass and dirt, we have all these different elements that can be recognized as grass. So it's going to recognize partial names of textures. So you don't have to put the full texture name in. It's automatically going to recognize a bunch of the stuff. So water is going to look for water, etc. It should automatically recognize a lot of stuff, which is good. So the similar names is what it looks for. The actual sounds are under here. The soft steps, the medium, hard, scuffs, jumps, and lands. So it actually has more variety in the number of types of sounds that it recognizes. So I think that's all we have to do. You can also adjust the distance per step to match the step length of your character if this doesn't really match up to it at all. And the floor distance is the distance between, it has something to do with the raycast that it's doing. So what we want to do is set this a little bit farther towards the floor, but not right on the floor. It can go like in between the legs like that is fine. So that should be everything. Now the volume is going to be very low, so I'm going to put it to 1. So now we are on Ovani Sounds 1. And they have a little bit different sounds for water set up by default. There's nothing for the moss because we haven't added it. Wood, they have wood already. And that one isn't set up either, but so if we want to add the moss, all we have to do is type in moss here, and it should work. So it's a pretty flexible system. I don't think it does particles though when we land. So now we have grass. So of course, if it's not fast enough, so we can always put the distance per step to be less if we want the audio to play more often. If you think it's too slow, for instance. So still sounds good. So that sounds better for Game Creator. Let's have a distance of 1. Much better. So that's pretty easy to get it to work. You might have gotten this Ovani Footstep System in a bundle. It's been in Humble Bundle a few times. So if you have it, it's an option for you. The other thing, but it doesn't do like particles and stuff like that. But it just does sounds only, but it does the sounds pretty, and it does it pretty well. So that's the other option I came up with. There are a bunch of other free footstep systems on the asset store that I've tried, but they didn't work very well for me, so I didn't mention them here. But you can try other ones if you want, and let me know down below if there's any free ones that you found that work well. But these two are the ones that I would find work well with Game Creator 2, and as soon as they fix that bug, we can get rid of these extra footstep systems and just go back to the Game Creator 2 one, because it works perfectly fine if the shooter issue wasn't a problem. So that's it for today. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and I'll see you in the next one.